There's a reason God placed a bow in your hand and fire in your soul. But He never meant for the world to understand it. Only you would. Welcome, Sagittarius. You weren't just born under a zodiac sign. You were summoned by a celestial contract, signed long before your first breath. And what burns inside of you, it isn't just personality. It's prophecy. The universe didn't assign you fire by accident. You are the living flame, chosen not to fit in, but to ignite. Not to be accepted, but to awaken. Not to please, but to purify. This is the part of the story no one ever told you. Not your teachers, not your parents, not even the astrologers. But today you'll finally see. You'll see why God chose Sagittarius to carry the fire no one else could bear. And I need to tell you up front, this isn't a list. This isn't entertainment. This is initiation. Because for those who are born Sagittarius, or who carry heavy Sagittarian placements in their soul map, you are here to disrupt the illusion, to burn what's false, and to light the way forward. If you've ever felt too much, too wild, too idealistic, too honest, too hungry for more, it was never a flaw. It was divine programming. The world tried to tame you, but the truth is, you weren't made to be tamed. You were made to blaze. Why this video exists. This is not just a tribute to your sign. This is your mirror. A spiritual download designed to wake the part of you that has been sleeping for far too long. I'm not here as a content creator. I'm here as a long-time researcher of Sagittarius energy, a soul who has walked beside warriors of fire for decades and watched them be misunderstood, judged, isolated, silenced. And yet, they never extinguished. The flame kept burning. Because no matter how much darkness surrounded them, Sagittarius always found a way to laugh, to move, to grow, to forgive, and to believe again. This video is a decoding of your essence, your contract, and your divine role. Before we begin, comment below with your birth date. If you're a Sagittarius, or if you carry strong Sagittarius energy, Moon rising Jupiter in Sag or even a packed 9th house, tell me, when did you first feel that your soul was different? That you weren't meant for smallness? I'll be reading every story because this channel isn't just a broadcast, it's a circle of fire bearers. Now, take a breath, close your eyes, and listen with more than your ears, because what you're about to discover will confirm everything your intuition has whispered your entire life. You weren't born to follow the path, you were born to blaze it. What to expect? Over the next 21 sacred flames, we will uncover it. Why joy is your most radical rebellion. Why your brutal honesty is not cruelty, but divine justice. Why your need for freedom is sacred, not selfish. Why your restlessness is not a flaw, it's a compass. Why your curiosity isn't random, it's spiritual hunger. Why your very presence burns away what's false in others. Each of these reasons isn't just a trait. It's a spiritual technology encoded inside your soul. And one of them, the 7th flame, will shock you, because it will explain why your relationships, your loneliness, your heartaches have been so intense, so karmic, and yet so sacred. A final note. Before we begin, this is not a message for everyone. This is for the ones who know, even if they can't explain how or why, that their soul is made of something ancient. That they're here for something bigger than just surviving. That their laughter holds healing and their fire burns with purpose. If that's you, stay with me. Let the flames speak. And now, we begin with sacred flame number 1, the flame of radiant joy. Because before you became the truth teller, the traveler, the philosopher, you were the child of light, and your joy was never ordinary. Sacred flame number 1, the flame of radiant joy. There is joy that comes from pleasure. from comfort, from convenience. But the joy that burns within Sagittarius does not come from those places. It comes from the divine. Sagittarius carries a sacred form of joy, one that rises not because life is easy, but because the soul has made a vow to rise above. Their laughter isn't light because life has been kind. It's light because they refused to let darkness keep them down. Joy for Sagittarius is not a reaction. It is a decision, a daily declaration that says, I will burn brighter than what tried to break me. This is the kind of joy that makes God smile, because it heals, it uplifts, it spreads. Wherever Sagittarius walks, the atmosphere changes. There's something magnetic in the way they can make pain feel temporary and hope feel permanent. Their energy makes even ordinary moments feel like magic, and they do this without trying. It's just who they are. People often misunderstand this. They think Sagittarius is immature, too playful, too optimistic. But what they don't see is the fire behind the smile, the soul that's been through storms and still chose to dance. That kind of joy is not weakness, it's power. And God knows this world needs more of it. Life lesson. Joy is not the result of a perfect life. It is the resistance to a broken world. If you carry this flame, don't hide your light to make others comfortable. Shine. Because your joy could be someone else's only reminder that hope is still real. Have you ever made someone smile when you yourself were hurting? Comment your birth date and share a time when your joy was your strength. Sacred flame number 2. The flame of divine truths. There is nothing casual about a Sagittarius telling the truth. When they speak, it's not small talk, it's soul talk. Their words carry weight because they come from fire. Fire doesn't flatter. Fire exposes. And that's exactly what Sagittarius was born to do. They were not designed to lie, to manipulate, or to maintain illusions. They were sent here to burn through the false. Their honesty is not always easy to receive, but it is sacred in the eyes of God. Because while many people speak to impress, Sagittarius speaks to liberate. They tell the truth that others are too afraid to say. And they don't do it to wound, they do it to awaken. Their words might feel sharp, but only because they cut through layers that were never real to begin with. That is a holy task. It's also a lonely one. The truth teller often walks alone. Their honesty threatens ego. Their clarity confronts comfort. But even when they're rejected, Sagittarius continues to speak. Because the flame inside them does not burn for approval. It burns for alignment. God entrusted Sagittarius with this flame because the world needs more souls who will say what needs to be said even when it shakes foundations. And if you carry this flame, then you know staying silent is never an option. Not when truth is your nature. Life lesson. Your truth is sacred. Don't water it down to be liked. Don't silence it to keep the peace. Say what is real with love, with fire, and with the awareness that truth, even when rejected, is never wasted. Have you ever told a truth that changed everything, even if it cost you? Comment below if you've ever been the truth teller in a moment of silence. Sacred flame number 3, the flame of liberation. To some, freedom is a desire. To Sagittarius, it is breath. It is sacred, non-negotiable, absolute. Sagittarius was born with an internal compass that refuses to be chained. From childhood, they feel it, the craving for movement, for expansion, for more. They ask questions others avoid. They wander into unknowns others fear. Not because they're restless, but because they are spiritually wired for exploration. God placed this flame in Sagittarius so they would never forget the soul was never meant to be owned. That's why they walk away from jobs that suffocate, from relationships that restrict, from communities that shame their fire. They don't leave because they don't care. They leave because they must stay true to their nature. Sagittarius doesn't run to escape. They run to return to themselves. This kind of liberation is terrifying to those who live in fear. And so Sagittarius is often misunderstood, labeled flaky, non-committal, unstable. But what others see as escape is actually evolution. Sagittarius does not move to abandon, they move to ascend. And in doing so, they give others permission to do the same. Their life becomes a map for those who've forgotten that cages can be invisible and still deadly. Sagittarius burns through those cages. Every time they choose freedom, they set the collective soul a little more free. Life lesson. Freedom isn't selfish, it's sacred. Don't betray your inner compass to meet someone else's comfort. If you were born to fly, you will suffocate in places built for crawling. Go, and let your flight remind others that their wings were never broken, just forgotten. Have you ever had to walk away from something just to breathe again? Comment your birth date and tell us what freedom means to you. Sacred Flame number 4. The flame of flow. Sagittarius was never built to live in straight lines. They don't move in predictable patterns. They flow. They follow instinct, intuition, inner knowing. And this is not chaos. This is cosmic design. While the world tries to measure life by plans, clocks, and calendars, Sagittarius listens to something older, the rhythm of the soul. They know when to leave without being told. They know when to leap without having all the data. And they know when to stay still without needing anyone's approval. This is what makes Sagittarius misunderstood by rigid minds. People mistake their spontaneity for recklessness, their improvisation for irresponsibility. But what looks like impulsiveness is often divine timing. What looks like rebellion is actually obedience to something higher than logic. God placed this flame in Sagittarius for a reason. Because the world has enough people stuck in fear. Enough people who wait for permission. Enough who delay life because they need a guarantee. Sagittarius is the opposite. They are the embodiment of trust. They show us what it means to surrender not in weakness, but in faith. Faith that the road will rise when the step is taken. Faith that the unknown is not the enemy, but the portal. And yes, sometimes it doesn't work out the way they expected. Sometimes they fall. But even then, they rise with stories that inspire and wisdom that cannot be taught in safety. They move again. They flow again. Because that's what sacred fire does, it moves. Life lesson. The most powerful moves are often the least planned. When your soul whispers, don't wait for a roadmap. Move. Trust the fire inside more than the fear outside. The flow will carry you if you're willing to let go of control. Have you ever followed a spontaneous decision that changed your life? Comment your birth date and tell us when you trusted the unknown and what happened next. Sacred Flame number 5. The flame of connection. Sagittarius is often called the wanderer, the explorer, the free spirit. But what many miss is this: beneath the travel and the movement lies a soul that craves connection, deep, raw, and real. They aren't interested in surface-level interactions. They want soul talks, eye contact that doesn't blink, conversations that stretch across dimensions. Sagittarius is one of the few signs that can truly sit across from a stranger and feel like they've met them before. That's not accident. That's soul memory. God gave Sagittarius the gift of universal resonance. They can speak 10 languages of the heart without saying a word. Their energy is open, inviting, and curious. They don't judge based on background status, culture, or belief. They connect because they recognize the spirit underneath the form. They make people feel seen because they actually see. This is why Sagittarius often draws people from all walks of life. Their circle is diverse. Their friendships are eclectic. They're not drawn to similarity, they're drawn to sincerity. And when you speak to a Sagittarius with your truth, they will hold it like something sacred. But here's the secret: they may connect easily, but they bond selectively. Because their energy is precious, and their time is sacred. They will share laughter with many, but their loyalty, that is earned. God loves this about them. Because in a world addicted to performance, Sagittarius brings presence. They remind us that connection is not built through perfection, but through presence, honesty, and curiosity. Life lesson: you don't need to be like others to connect. You need to be real. Authenticity creates resonance. And when you are honest with your energy, you attract souls, not just people. Have you ever formed a deep bond with someone completely different from you? Comment your birth date and share the most unexpected soul connection you've ever had. Sacred flame number 6. The flame of sacred laughter. Laughter is often seen as entertainment, as lightness, as something small, but not for Sagittarius. For them, laughter is spiritual, it's sacred, it's survival. Sagittarius can laugh through anything, and this isn't ignorance, it's alchemy. When life gives them pain, they don't just cry it out, they laugh it into perspective. When things collapse, they make a joke. Not to minimize the weight, but to remind everyone that even in darkness, light still exists. This is a flame few can carry. Because it requires something most don't understand: courage. It takes courage to smile while healing, to crack jokes while carrying grief, to bring joy when your own heart is heavy. But Sagittarius does it again and again. And when they do, something happens. The energy shifts, the atmosphere lifts. People remember themselves. That is not comedy. That is ceremony. God loves this about Sagittarius because he designed them to be spiritual disruptors. Their laughter shakes the dust off dead places. Their humor resurrects hope. Even in the most serious rooms, they'll find something to laugh at, and in doing so, they loosen the grip of fear. But make no mistake, Sagittarius knows the depth of pain. They just choose to hold it differently. Their laughter is not denial. It is defiance. Life lesson: laughter is not a distraction. It's a declaration. When you laugh in the middle of pain, you're reminding the universe and yourself that you still hold the power to choose your vibration. Have you ever made someone laugh when your own heart was breaking? Comment your birth date and share a moment when laughter saved you or someone else. Sacred flame number 7. The flame of vision. Some people see the world as it is. Sagittarius sees the world as it could be. They carry within them a rare flame, the flame of vision. It's not about seeing the future like a prophet or predicting outcomes like an oracle. It's about seeing possibility when others only see limitation. It's about dreaming when others doubt. And most importantly, it's about believing when everyone else has stopped trying. This is one of the most divine gifts Sagittarius holds, and one of the most painful. Because when you can see beyond the present, you're often surrounded by people who can't. People who call your dreams unrealistic. People who try to ground you out of love, but really out of fear. And in that isolation, many Sagittarians begin to wonder, am I too much? Am I imagining too far? But God says no. God says, you see what I see. Sagittarius carries Jupiter's gift: expansion, optimism, elevation. That's not just astrology. That's a reflection of how the universe wired their mind. While others think in steps, Sagittarius thinks in leaps. While others aim for comfort, Sagittarius reaches for purpose. This is why they can start companies, launch revolutions, write books, travel across the globe with nothing but fire in their gut. Their vision leads them, not logic, not guarantees, and that terrifies the world, because they do things others were too afraid to even imagine. But this isn't just for them. Their flame of vision is meant to ignite others. When a Sagittarius believes in you, you feel it. You start to believe too. That's the power they carry, not just to chase their own dreams, but to awaken the dreams others forgot. Life lesson. Your ability to see beyond the now is sacred. Don't dim your vision to fit into small spaces. Be the wild dreamer, the fire starter, the blueprint breaker. Because the world you see is not a fantasy, it's a future that needs you to believe in it first. Have you ever had a dream no one else believed in, but you kept going? Comment your birth date and share the vision that still burns inside you. Sacred Flame, number 8. The flame of divine restlessness. There's a kind of unease that lives in the Sagittarius soul, a feeling that they're never quite settled, never quite done. Even when life is good, there's something inside them whispering, there's more. And that whisper is holy. It's called divine restlessness. To others, it looks like impatience, inconsistency, a refusal to stay still. But for Sagittarius, it's sacred navigation. It's not that they're ungrateful, it's that their soul remembers something bigger, something they haven't touched yet. And until they find it, they can't pretend to be content. This restlessness is not a flaw, it's a flame. And God placed it there on purpose, because without this fire, humanity would never grow. Without those who keep moving, keep questioning, keep reaching, the world would stagnate. Sagittarius is the soul that says, what else is out there, and actually goes to find out. Yes, it can make relationships hard. Yes, it can make long-term plans difficult. Yes, it often makes them feel misunderstood even by those they love. But the truth is, Sagittarius was never meant to live a still life. They were meant to live a wide one, deep, expansive, bold. They are the soul of evolution wrapped in human form. So if you carry this flame, don't try to snuff it out to fit into someone else's idea of stable. You're not meant to be tamed. You're meant to be tuned into something higher than comfort. Life lesson. If your spirit is restless, it's because your destiny is vast. Don't confuse stillness with peace, and don't confuse movement with being lost. Sometimes the soul that roams the furthest is the one most aligned with divine direction. Have you ever felt like you were meant for more, even when others didn't understand? Comment your birth date and share how your restlessness has guided your journey. Sacred Flame, number 9. The flame of courageous love. Sagittarius doesn't love halfway. They don't give pieces of themselves. When they love you, feel the full flame. But what makes their love sacred isn't just its intensity, it's their courage. Because Sagittarius knows what love costs. They know that loving someone honestly requires risk, vulnerability, and the constant possibility of pain. And yet they do it anyway, over and over. Because love to them is not a strategy, it's a truth. They will never fake connection. They will never stay out of fear. They will never say I love you if their soul doesn't mean it. That's why their love is so rare and so unforgettable. But here's the part few understand. Sagittarius is highly selective. They might laugh with many, but they bond with very few. They wait for someone who can match their fire, someone who doesn't try to possess them, but dares to run beside them. Their love is deep, but it's not needy. It's wild, but it's loyal. And once they've chosen you, you'll know, because they won't hold back. They'll challenge you, encourage you, believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. Their love is a mirror and a flame. God chose Sagittarius to carry this kind of love because the world doesn't need more comfort. It needs more truth, more presence, more freedom. And Sagittarius brings all three. Life lesson. Love isn't about ownership. It's about expansion. The right people won't cage your fire. They'll dance in it with you. Don't settle for half love. Wait for the one who feels like flight, not fear. Have you ever walked away from love that tried to control you? Comment your birth date and share what courageous love means to you. Sacred Flame number 10. The flame of sacred curiosity. Some people ask questions for information. Sagittarius asks because their soul demands to understand the meaning behind the answer. Their curiosity is not shallow. It is sacred. It is the divine spark that refuses to accept the surface of things. From childhood, Sagittarius has always asked why. Not to challenge for the sake of defiance, but because they sense something deeper is always present behind the rule, beneath the story, under the silence. God placed this flame in Sagittarius to keep the human spirit alive. Because when people stop asking questions, they stop growing. And when they stop growing, they start shrinking their potential. This sacred curiosity is what drives Sagittarius to travel, to read, to explore religions, philosophies, cultures, languages. They're not satisfied with one version of reality. They want to touch truth for themselves, not be told what it is. Their mind is a portal, and it's always searching for more light. And yes, this can be exhausting to others. Sagittarius might change opinions, often shift beliefs, or abandon systems they once loved. But this isn't confusion. This is evolution. The Sagittarius soul doesn't stay where truth stops moving. Their curiosity doesn't always bring comfort, but it always brings clarity. And those who walk with them must learn to embrace the fire of constant learning, because Sagittarius will never settle into stagnation. They were born to stretch the limits of knowledge again and again. Life lesson. Curiosity is a compass for the soul. Let it lead you. You're not here to repeat what others believe. You're here to discover what your spirit knows. When you stop questioning, you stop awakening. Have you ever changed your beliefs because your soul outgrew them? Comment your birth date and share the biggest truth your curiosity helped you uncover. Sacred Flame number 11. The flame of emotional wisdom. Many mistake Sagittarius for being emotionally distant, but that's only because they don't display emotions the way others expect. The truth is, Sagittarius feels deeply. They just choose not to drown. Their emotional world is layered, thoughtful, and full of insight. They don't react, they reflect. When something painful happens, they don't collapse. They observe, they process, and they search for the lesson hidden in the chaos. This is the flame of emotional wisdom. God gave Sagittarius this flame to remind the world that feeling deeply doesn't always mean expressing loudly. Sometimes it means sitting in silence and listening to what the feeling is teaching, not just what it's saying. Sagittarius doesn't want to be consumed by their emotions. They want to understand them. This is what makes them such powerful advisors, healers, and friends. They don't just comfort, they clarify. They can walk someone out of emotional confusion with a single sentence that pierces straight to the truth. And even though they may struggle to express their own vulnerability, they are constantly evolving through their emotional experiences. Every heartbreak becomes wisdom. Every disappointment becomes perspective. Every loss becomes insight. This is a rare kind of strength, the kind that feels without being ruled, that breaks and still teaches, that mourns but doesn't lose direction. Life lesson. Your ability to feel deeply and still move wisely is not emotional distance. It's sacred maturity. Let your heart keep opening, but let it also keep learning. Emotion is your teacher, not your enemy. Have your emotions ever taught you something your mind couldn't? Comment your birth date and share what your heart has helped you understand. Sacred Flame number 12. The flame of magnetic energy. You don't always notice Sagittarius when they enter a room, but you feel them. The shift in the air, the spark in the silence, the subtle pull of something bold, alive, and untamed. That's not personality, that's presence. Sagittarius holds a magnetic energy that is hard to define and impossible to duplicate. It's not about being loud or flashy. It's about vibration. Something about their spirit speaks before they say a word. This flame draws people in, not because Sagittarius tries to, but because their authenticity is irresistible. In a world full of masks, Sagittarius wears none. In a world of people trying to be liked, they just are. And that truth, that raw, unapologetic presence, creates attraction on a soul level. But here's the secret: Sagittarius doesn't keep everyone they attract. They're not here to collect admirers, they're here to wake people up. Sometimes that means someone enters their orbit, feels something shift, and leaves changed. Sometimes it means deep bonds that last lifetimes. Either way, the fire leaves a mark. God gave Sagittarius this flame not to feed their ego, but to serve their mission. Their energy calls out to those who are asleep. It invites people into growth, into challenge, into honesty. That's why being around a Sagittarius often feels like more than friendship. It feels like alignment, like something ancient has returned. And those who can handle the heat, they stay. Life lesson. Your energy speaks louder than your words. You don't need to impress. Your truth is magnetic. The more authentic you become, the more aligned souls you'll attract. Stay real. That's your superpower. Have you ever felt someone drawn to you just by your energy? Comment your birth date and share a moment when your presence spoke before you did. Sacred Flame number 13. The flame of rebellion. Sagittarius doesn't rebel for attention. They rebel because their soul remembers freedom. They carry within them the ancient memory of what it feels like to live without chains. Mental, emotional, societal, spiritual. And the moment someone tries to bind them, define them, limit them, they push back, hard. That's not attitude, that's sacred instinct. This flame of rebellion is not loud, violent, or performative. It's quiet, but undeniable. It shows up in their refusal to conform, in their decision to speak the uncomfortable truth, in their unwillingness to stay where their spirit can't breathe. God placed this flame in Sagittarius to challenge systems that no longer serve truth, to question traditions that are rooted in fear, not love, to burn through illusions that keep people small. Their resistance is not a flaw, it's a divine assignment. That's why Sagittarius often clashes with authority, not because they hate structure, but because they demand authenticity. They won't follow rules that lack reason. They won't obey out of fear. They don't pretend to believe something just to make others comfortable. Their rebellion is a mirror. It reveals the false, It awakens the numb. And yes, it threatens those who benefit from control. But the fire inside a Sagittarius wasn't born to please. It was born to purify. Life lesson. Rebellion is not destruction. It is the beginning of transformation. When your soul refuses to comply with what feels wrong, trust it. You weren't made to follow blindly. You were made to ignite change. Have you ever challenged something everyone around you accepted as normal? Comment your birth date and share a moment when your rebellion was an act of truth. Sacred Flame, number 14. The flame of wanderer's grace. Sagittarius is the eternal traveler, not just of places, but of ideas, truths, dimensions. They carry the energy of the pilgrim, the nomad, the soul in constant motion. And this isn't escapism. This is grace in motion. They walk away not because they don't care, but because they do. Deeply. They care about living in alignment. They care about finding what feels real. They care about discovering something beyond what they already know. To others, it might look like they can't settle, like they're always chasing something new. But the truth is, they're not chasing. They're responding. Responding to a sacred pull that guides them to the next revelation, the next teacher, the next layer of their soul. God gave Sagittarius this flame because the world grows through those who move, those who don't fear the unknown, those who leave comfort behind to follow mystery. The wanderer carries the seeds of insight to places that have forgotten how to grow. This is why Sagittarius brings something rare wherever they go: presence. Even if they don't stay long, what they leave behind lasts. An idea, a spark, a perspective that lingers. Their journey becomes medicine not only for them, but for those they touch along the way. Life lesson. Movement doesn't mean you're lost. Sometimes grace is found not in stillness, but in surrendering to the journey. You don't have to have roots to grow. Some souls bloom wherever the wind sends them. Have you ever left something safe to follow a calling that didn't make sense to others? Comment your birth date and share where your wandering spirit has led you. Sacred Flame, number 15. The flame of sacred risk. Sagittarius doesn't fear the unknown, they flirt with it. Where others hesitate, Sagittarius leaps. And while the world sees risk as danger, Sagittarius sees it as initiation. Every choice, every departure, every leap of faith, these are not reckless moves. These are sacred steps. This flame is what gives Sagittarius their power. It's why they start things others only dream of. It's why they take jobs they're not qualified for. Love people the world doesn't approve of move across the globe with nothing but trust. They don't wait until it's guaranteed. They move when the soul says, now. God placed this flame in Sagittarius to remind humanity that safety is not the highest virtue. Growth is. And you cannot grow without risk. Yes, Sagittarius falls. They make mistakes. They get hurt. But even then they do something extraordinary. They get up. Again and again. And when they rise, they carry stories, lessons, and wisdom that cannot be taught in comfort. The sacred risk Sagittarius takes is not just about adventure, it's about obedience to their higher calling. They don't gamble for thrill. They step into uncertainty because that's where destiny lives. Life lesson. You were not born to tiptoe through life. You were born to leap. Don't wait for certainty to act. Risk isn't the enemy, regret is. The fire within you will always catch you even when the world can't. Have you ever taken a leap of faith that changed your life forever? Comment your birth date and share the greatest risk your soul ever told you to take. Sacred Flame, number 16. The flame of inner radiance. Some signs draw attention with status, some with beauty. Sagittarius draws attention with something harder to name, a glow that comes from within. This is inner radiance, not forced, not filtered, just real. It's the light of someone who has walked through fire but didn't let it make them bitter. It's the shine of a soul that lives honestly, questions deeply, and still chooses to believe in goodness. Sagittarius doesn't need the spotlight. They are the light. Wherever they go, people sense it. There's something different here. Something authentic. Something magnetic that has nothing to do with image and everything to do with essence. God placed this flame in Sagittarius so the world wouldn't forget that true beauty doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being aligned. When Sagittarius is in tune with their spirit, their presence speaks louder than their words. Their energy becomes a beacon for others who are lost in noise, performance, or perfectionism. This is why some are drawn to Sagittarius but don't know why. It's not about what they say or how they look, it's about what they radiate: freedom, wisdom, warmth, and truth. This inner light doesn't flicker because of opinion. It's not shaken by rejection. It burns steadily from the core of someone who lives by purpose, not performance. And when Sagittarius forgets their own light, which sometimes happens in a world obsessed with image, the divine always calls them back, not to impress, but to illuminate. Life lesson. The brightest light isn't always the loudest. When you're rooted in your truth, your presence shines even when you say nothing. Protect your radiance. It's your power, not your personality, that shifts the room. Have you ever felt people respond to your energy before your words? Comment your birth date and share what lights you up from within. Sacred Flame, number 17. The flame of soul contracts. Before your birth, there was an agreement. It wasn't written on paper. It was etched into light. A contract between your soul and the divine to carry fire, to walk paths others fear, to live with wild truth, with brave curiosity and unshakable freedom. You didn't come here by accident, you came here on assignment. Sagittarius often feels like an outsider, like their soul doesn't fully belong to the systems around them. That's because they're not here to blend in, they're here to awaken. Their soul contract includes disruption, expansion, and teaching through living, not preaching. That's why so many Sagittarius-born people experience early upheaval, spiritual questioning, or isolation. Their path is not meant to be easy. It's meant to be enlightening. This flame of soul contracts means that Sagittarius holds a unique responsibility to live truthfully even when it costs them approval. To speak when silence is expected. To leave when others stay. To evolve even when others remain asleep. God gave Sagittarius this flame because some truths cannot be taught, they must be embodied. And Sagittarius carries the courage to become the lesson. Not through perfection, but through presence. And here's the key. Your contract isn't about doing everything right. It's about staying aligned with your higher self even when the world misunderstands you. Life lesson. You were chosen for a reason. Your soul made vows before it made form. When you feel different, it's not disconnection, it's divine memory. Don't betray your soul just to belong. Honor the fire you were born with. Have you ever felt like your life had a deeper assignment no one else could see? Comment your birth date and share what your soul seems to keep pulling you toward. Sacred Flame, number 18. The flame of unbreakable spirit. Life tests Sagittarius in ways that would break others. And sometimes it does break them momentarily. They lose faith. They fall into silence. They question everything. But then something happens. The fire returns. Because Sagittarius was born with a spirit that bends but never stays down. They carry a kind of resilience that doesn't just recover, it transforms. Pain doesn't harden them, it deepens them. Disappointment doesn't close them, it refines them. This is the flame of the unbreakable spirit. God placed this flame in Sagittarius not to make them immune to pain, but to make them alchemists. They turn heartbreak into poetry, failure into momentum, loss into perspective. They don't just survive, they come back stronger. And this is why people often underestimate them. Because Sagittarius may fall fast, but they rise faster. They don't linger in victimhood. They choose to grow, to evolve, to believe again even when belief feels dangerous. It's not because they're fearless. It's because they know the fire inside them is stronger than the fire around them. When you carry this flame, your setbacks become sacred. They teach you what no victory ever could. They humble your ego. They awaken your depth. They remind you that strength doesn't come from avoiding the fall, it comes from learning how to rise. Life lesson. Your spirit isn't here to avoid hardship. It's here to overcome it without losing your essence. You were born with bounce back coded into your soul. Let the world see that light can rise from ashes. Have you ever gone through something that should have broken you but didn't? Comment your birth date and share how your fire came back after the fall. Sacred Flame number 19. The flame of divine disruption. Sagittarius doesn't enter quietly. They enter like a spark that shakes everything loose. They challenge assumptions. They question sacred cows. They say the thing no one else dares to say. And they do it not for attention, but because something inside them cannot tolerate falsehood. They were born with the flame of divine disruption. God gave this flame to Sagittarius to confront what no longer serves evolution. In families, in systems, in relationships, they will not sit still in dysfunction. They feel when something is off. And instead of staying silent, they shake the table. Sometimes this makes them the villain in other people's stories. The problem, the too intense. But deep down, everyone knows they just said what needed to be said. They did what everyone was too afraid to do. Sagittarius exposes what others try to cover, not out of cruelty, out of alignment. They don't destroy to harm. They destroy illusion so something more honest can rise. It takes courage to carry this flame. Because disruption is lonely, it brings resistance, misunderstanding. But it's also how spiritual awakenings begin. This is why even when they walk away from something, healing often follows. Because they didn't leave out of ego, they left out of integrity. Life lesson. Your presence will often stir what others want to keep hidden. Don't dim your flame to make the room more comfortable. You weren't sent to maintain what's broken. You were sent to shake it until truth stands free. Have you ever spoken or acted in a way that disrupted everything but revealed the truth? Comment your birth date and tell us when your disruption became a breakthrough. Sacred Flame number 20. The flame of prophetic fire. Not all vision is about the future. Some of it is about seeing the truth of the present before others can. Sagittarius carries prophetic fire, a knowing that can't be explained, only followed. They say things that later come true. They sense shifts before they happen. They feel when the energy of a person or space is off before anything is visible. This flame is subtle, but real. And for many Sagittarius souls, it feels like a burden at first. Like they're always ahead, always outside, always misunderstood. But in time, they come to realize they are not wrong. They are simply wired to read the unseen. God placed this flame in Sagittarius to serve not as a fortune teller, but as a way shower, a lighthouse, a truth carrier that lights the path ahead, not just for themselves, but for others who've lost direction. This is why Sagittarius often ends up being the one people come back to after the chaos. You were right, they say. I should have listened. And the Sagittarius smiles not out of pride, but from a deep knowing that the fire always reveals. This prophetic energy isn't about ego, it's about trust. Learning to trust the inner flame even when logic disagrees, and learning to speak what they see even when it makes others uncomfortable. Life lesson. You see what others miss. Not because you're smarter, but because you're tuned in. Don't second-guess your vision. Speak it, stand in it, and let it light the way for yourself and for those still walking in the dark. Have you ever sensed something before it happened and been right? Comment your birth date and share how your intuition became a guiding fire. Sacred Flame, number 21. The flame of ultimate freedom. At the heart of Sagittarius is one sacred truth. They will choose freedom over everything, over comfort, over acceptance, over safety, even over love if that love tries to put them in a cage. This is the final and highest flame ultimate freedom. The soul's refusal to be tamed, not just by others, but by fear, by guilt, by pressure, or by the smallness the world often settles for. Sagittarius doesn't just want to move. They must move. Not always physically, but spiritually, emotionally, soulfully. They must evolve. They must grow. They must become more of who they truly are. God chose Sagittarius to carry this flame because the world desperately needs reminders that freedom is sacred, not selfish. That choosing yourself is not betrayal, it's alignment. And that every soul deserves to soar, not shrink. This is why Sagittarius sometimes walks alone. Because they would rather wander in truth than sit in false comfort. But ironically, it is in their solitude that they often shine brightest, because their fire burns clean when it's not being controlled. And when they meet someone who doesn't try to dim them, but joins them in flight, it becomes holy. Life lesson. You weren't born to fit a mold. You were born to break them. Your freedom is not a rebellion, it's your birthright. And when you fully embrace it, you give others permission to do the same. Have you ever walked away from something that cost you, but gave you your freedom back? Comment your birth date and share how you reclaimed your soul by choosing truth over approval. Final summary. The return to flame. You've just walked through 21 sacred reasons why your soul burns differently. But the truth is, these weren't reasons, they were reminders. Reminders of who you've always been, before the doubt, before the noise, before the world tried to shrink your flame. You were never meant to dim. You were never meant to fold. You were never meant to walk quietly through life, apologizing for your fire. You were born Sagittarius, not to survive this world, but to reignite it, to awaken laughter in places grief had silenced, to speak truth where comfort kept people numb, to run free where others have settled for cages, to question the unquestionable, to live the unlivable, to love without fear, and to remind the world that freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the presence of the soul in its purest form. God didn't choose you because you were perfect. He chose you because you were brave. Brave enough to carry this much fire. And now that you've remembered these flames, the only question left is this. What will you burn through next? Because this isn't the end. This is the beginning of your return to yourself. And when you live from that flame, nothing and no one can put it out. Final life lesson. You were never here to be liked. You were here to be lit. The world doesn't need more compliance. It needs more combustion. Let your soul blaze unapologetically, not for rebellion, but for remembrance. Final call to comment. Which of the 21 sacred flames spoke to you the loudest? Comment your birth date and the flame that felt like it was written for you. I'll be reading your stories and honoring your fire if you felt something awaken in you today. If even one flame reminded you of who you really are beneath the noise, then this isn't the end of our connection. Subscribe to the Sagittarius Flame, because this channel isn't just for content. It's for those who carry the fire, those who remember, those who rebel, those who rise. Every video here is a mirror, a guide, and a key to unlock the truth you've always carried inside. Hit subscribe, join the circle. Let's walk this path of sacred fire together, because the world needs your light, and your soul is just getting started.